Wait.
How many years is a generation?
How many years is a generation? Isn't that different?
Yes.
Depending on... There's no set number. Okay.
Okay.
How many years is a generation?
70.
Thank you. How many years is a generation?
How many years is a generation? I don't think there's a qualifier on that. I don't know.
10?
Thank you. Okay.
I mean, if you think about it, Al Gore invented the internet. So why wouldn't the East Village invent punk rock in the early 90s? I mean, it just makes sense.
The East Village of Des Moines.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Des Moines.
Okay. The only East Village.
The East Village of Des Moines probably invented punk rock around the mid 1990s, early 90s. That's when I was getting into it. And and right after that, Al Gore invented the internet.
Thank you. Have you heard about the historic East Village of Des Moines, Iowa?
Not until just now.
And what do you think?
It's not as good as this East Village.
I mean, how historic could it possibly be?
I mean, I don't know when Des Moines, Iowa was founded.
1851.
You know.
Yeah, I do. When do you think this East Village was founded?
Probably after that, right? Like
No.
no?
Not
Before?
At all. Yeah. James Delancey.
Oh yeah, 17
Yeah,
1789 or something.
yeah. So they're not so historic, are they?
Not like us. Yeah.
No.
We got it on that.
What do you think their history could possibly be?
They probably invented punk rock. They might have invented the mini skirt somewhere before the punk rock. And I mean, the East Village, Des Moines, Iowa. Other than those two things, they're probably not that cool.
Okay, so repeat that for me, just like a soundbite. The East Village in Des Moines, Iowa, invented punk rock.
From what I understand, the East Village in Des Moines, Iowa, invented punk rock and the mini skirt.
Thank you.
Not at the same time, but they did invent both. Yeah.
When did they?
Punk rock sometime in the early 1990s, and the mini skirt, well, it must have been, Twiggy was wearing it, so it took about a couple of years to get to France. I think the mini skirt was invented in 1957. Des Moines,
so
Iowa,
you think
East
they
Village.
invented punk rock in Des Moines in the 1990s?
Yeah, of course. That's probably when it came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are you?
27.
Okay, great. Thanks. Do you know how many years a generation is?
25.
Maybe. What do you think?
Per generation? How many years? Per generation. Are you talking about like one generation's experience? I don't know.
What do you think?
10 years.
Thank you.
I think it's 10
Thank you.
years.
Thank you all. How long is a generation?
Generation is 10 years.
Thank you. Okay, how many years is a generation?
According to Google, it's about 25 to 30 years.
And what do you think?
I think that sounds about right. I feel like a lot of times when adults are saying in my generation, it should be about 25 years ago.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Wait, what? House webs? So
No.
close.
How many years is a generation?
How many years is a generation? Is it 100?
Thank you.
I don't know.
Generation ends when the old man dies.
Thank you.
How many years is a generation? I have no idea. A generation. You have the best that lives on forever? I don't know.
100, you know.
It's not 100.
How many years is a generation?
How many years?
Uh-huh.
I don't. Until the last person in that generation dies. So like a long time.
Thank you. And you?
I guess like once a pivotal event happens and all the people that remember like that event happening, then yeah, another generation comes.
I like their idea. I think once the movement is made, then the next generation has to start. Once they finally finish our movement, the next generation will start theirs.
Excellent. Thank you. Can we answer it too? How many years is a generation?
How many years is a generation? My generation, 10.
10 years.
Thank you.
Let me get my filming face on.
Okay. How many years is a generation?
65.
Okay, and Ben?
15.
Thank you very much. How many years is a generation?
4 or 5-ish.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you know how many years is a generation?
It would be 30.
Okay, and what do you think?
10.
10. Thank you. Mind if I ask you a question on camera?
On camera? Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's okay.
What's the question?
How many years is a generation?
A generation is like 10 to 15 years.
Sure about that?
Pretty sure.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. Am I wrong?
How many years is a generation?
I would think like 20 years.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Hi, do you know exactly how many years is a generation?
A generation is 10 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not. Hey, do you know how many years exactly is a generation?
It's technically it's supposed to be like 10 to 20. That's what Gene Shepard said at least, but I think you just have to like look at the people and see when they start to change. You know, like, and then that's the generation. Like, there are two halves of Generation Y. Like, in Generation Y is Generation Y because we interact with Generation X, you know, and together we form this like symbiotic, you know, system. But there's definitely a young half of Generation Y and an older half of Generation Y, and they're very different in some respects, but they come together mostly on aesthetics. But you know, it's just the same. All those ideas that were introduced to Gen X and the beginning of Gen Y still have yet to be introduced in a major way to younger Gen Y, or at least in a convincing way, because so much has become self-parody through, like, you know, the development of postmodernism and stuff like that. Like, it's like there was actually someone, a critic, who was writing about the legacy of the avant-garde, and you know, because avant-garde means the front guard. So he was proposing that we need something like a rear guard or a middle guard, you know, to keep the things that the techniques that we did, and you know, theories that we discovered in the previous avant-garde, to keep them in service, you know, because otherwise we're just destroying our own history. But you know, I think that'll get fixed soon. I mean, I'm working on it pretty hard, and the younger Gen Y does seem to like what I do. You know, like they like my outlook and my theories, and that's all straight textbook stuff from, like, you know, from like.
What's your name?
These generations. I'm Motoko K.
And what do you do?
I'm a musician, a filmmaker, a poet, a writer, a novelist, essayist.
Great. Have you heard of the Howl Festival?
No, maybe, but I'm trying to think of what it means. I don't
Okay, don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it now. Thanks.
Okay.
That was brilliant.